Hi everyone. If I ask you this question, what don't you like about your boss? I'm sure there's going to be dozens and dozens of answers. Everyone in any job, in any country, share over 50% of reasons why or what they don't like about their bosses or superiors. But since the channel is only about teachers and their problems at their workplaces, so I'll try my best to narrow the effects to only the teaching career or not to discuss the general reasons that apply to all jobs. Another reason why I'm not going to discuss much. Uh, a lot of problems at the workplace could actually be solved by having some private conversations with your superiors or your managers or your boss. They could be solved by having some, let's say, some surveys or some feedback that could and would reach your bosses. What I'm going to discuss today are what you can call symptoms that once they appear, once you see them, you should seriously start thinking about leaving your workplace immediately. Because if you don't do that, you will be in big trouble. These signs or symptoms represent your boss's ego, and with time they will grow and grow, and you reach a level when you can no longer bear what your boss is doing because you'll be in real danger of losing your mind. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to divide this video into two parts. The first part contains 5 signs or 5 symptoms. The second video will also contain 5 symptoms. Sign 1. I know you. You are the second in command. When your boss starts assigning people to decision-making positions, even though they don't have the qualification or education background or charisma, they do that for only one reason, because they know them. For example, they might assign a person whose higher education is economy or marketing as senior teachers only because they have known these people before. Now, I'm not saying that marketing people or IT people can't be great teachers. Of course, they can, and they can even become better teachers than those with CELTA A or even Delta if they work hard on themselves and build their own experience, their own and unique experience, which would definitely take a long time, but not from day one. Sign 2. It's a company, not courses. Unless you're dealing with corporate clients, your job, which is basically teaching, will forever be courses. Even if you teach business English as a part, not the main service. When your boss starts calling their school or courses company, that marks the sign that your boss is adopting the market policy, which means anyone could be fired or mistreated for some reasons that only the boss knows. This would lead to losing a lot of experienced people, quality people, and for example, what happened with Snapchat policy, the layoff policy in 2022, this year. But the difference between Snapchat and our situation is that Snapchat is a company. It's a real company. And its decisions are measured by the company's interests, not the boss's criteria. Your boss here would love calling themselves businessman or businesswoman. It's their fantasy, which leads us to the next symptom. Sign 3. I am the boss. Your job in the courses is to do what the boss orders, and I say again, orders you to do. You are not allowed to think or suggest anything for two reasons. First, the boss thinks for you. Second, whatever you are going to talk about or whatever diamond you're going to speak out, it's no match to the diamond which your boss speaks out. In other words, the boss knows better. The boss is perfect. Their ideas are far more valuable than whatever nonsense you may say. Regardless of your experience or educational background, they are all worthless if compared to your boss's idea. At this stage, they start developing some kind of God nature. They foresee much further than you can ever do. They know what's good and what's bad, so you don't even bother speaking. This leads to the next symptom. Sign 4. I'm great. Being a god means being great. That's what the boss thinks at this stage. So everything that God says or does is great. In the eyes of the teachers, 90% of what the boss says or does is actually rubbish. But they have to keep silent because at the end of the month, it's the boss who is going to pay the money. This would make your boss think that, let's say, even the simple things are actually great. For example, they may give copybooks with the logo of the company or the name of the company printed on them, which for real companies, even though they are much smaller companies, it's something good and nice and beautiful. It attracts people. It's not a bad thing at all. It's totally good. But these simple things that almost any small company can do, like printing on copybooks or pens or cups or T-shirts, these things are nice and normal, as I said, but in the eyes of the boss, these things are extremely important, are extremely great. They would spend hours explaining how great this idea is, which, as I mentioned before, this idea would come from ordinary companies, normal companies. For them, when the idea comes from ordinary people, it's an ordinary idea. There is nothing special about that. But when the same idea comes from a great person, that means this is a great idea because it comes from a great person. Sign 5. I am the center of your life. Your boss at this stage is one step far from being diagnosed with what we call grandiose delusions, which means you can Google it because I'm not a therapist here. I'll write it, it's here. You can just Google it, but just to give you a brief idea about that or about what that means, it's when a person thinks that they are greater than what they really are. For them to be satisfied, it doesn't only require you to do what they think is correct, or it's not by doing the job the way they think is correct, but also by not getting out of their circle. For example, they wouldn't like you to make friends with your colleagues or inside the workplace, because they will forever be afraid of having some voices which might oppose them, or which might, one way or another, or let's say indirectly, oppose their decisions or oppose the way they run the business. Even though those voices might be low, but it's still extremely dangerous for the boss. That's why they will always tell you to keep distance from your colleagues. Of course, it doesn't mean you should completely ignore them. Of course, it's impossible for you to do that because you see them every day, and for long time, for several hours, you can't just ignore them. But don't plan anything like meeting or like a party or like barbecue or like picnic without, or if it's not arranged and organized by your boss. The main point is that the boss is the very center of your attention and the very center of others' attention, everyone who works in the company. So this brings us to the end of part one. With time, I learn new strategies in YouTube. So every time I try to avoid some mistakes I made in my previous videos. One of the mistakes I learned today that I try my best not to make the videos very long, because I made one video, it was almost 20 minutes about the courses. You can watch it from here. And so now I'm trying to make them a little shorter, so you don't feel bored when watching them. So thank you very much for watching. My next video will continue discussing the next 5 signs or symptoms you should really consider leaving your workplace once you notice them, or once you see your boss falling victim to them. Thank you very much for watching. See you later.